Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, lads and ladettes. How are we all today on this cold evening, as usual? It's been really cold in winter lately, hasn't it? But anyway, let's get on to the jibber jabber. We're going to be talking about the recent episode of 60 Minutes. We're going to be nitpicky. We're going to be nitpicky because for majority of the story, it was decently accurate, considering the negligence that a lot of the media has had recently towards esports, and for the past 3-4 years a lot of it has just been pointed towards gaming as a scapegoat when violence happens, or when someone mentions the fact that esports exists. Are like, that's never going to be better than sports. I really like my muscly men tackling each other. That's always going to be better, right? But to a degree, that's not an incorrect statement to say that. Don't forget, sporting has a very rich historical element. Sports have been around for a lot longer than esports, so it's not too bad of an assumption for people to have that, right? But of course, the baby boomers, they're very old. They don't like change. They don't like having these new things come into their realm, and they don't like virtual things happening, right? So let's get down to business. In terms of the actual esports coverage, a lot of it was actually quite good in the 60-minute segment. I was impressed the fact that they got a lot of what was necessary in terms of the information, but I think they over-exaggerated as to analyzing the profession and looking at the likeliness of someone to be successful in esports. Let's not forget, is it wise for someone to quit school to pursue sporting, even if they're not at the sort of top, maybe in the mid-range, and they're trying to break into a Div 1? You always have a backup, right? Gaming, esports is not at that stage where you can take it as a primary career for majority of the members who play it. It felt like to me that a lot of the video was depicted as if, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go, play for 2 hours every night and I can be a competitive gamer. It felt like that was the stigma around this whole video, that it was very accessible, that everyone can jump into it, which is a lie. You have to be the cream of the absolute crop for most games in order to be taken seriously. You have to be in a team. You have to have other members that can synergize with you in terms of chemistry. It's very difficult, especially within the oceanic scene, and this was mentioned in the video that we are lagging behind as well. So in terms of a serious career option, it is very, very unlikely that you quit your primary job in order to pursue esports. It's, of course, a job that a lot of people would like. They labeled it the dream job. I agree with that 100%. But they need to realize that this isn't accessible to majority of the people who play games. This is accessible to those who are elite, those who are in the top 2% for every video game, those who can participate, those who can put in hard yards of pretty much sleepless nights. It's no I forgot what I was about to say, but yeah, it's very difficult, right? Because we think about the games that are the most popular in esports at the moment. A lot of them offer strategical diversity. A lot of them offer a lot of muscle memory that you have to learn. Let's look at all the top esports. A lot of them are very difficult to play at an elite level. Counter-Strike, you have to know where to place your flashbangs, your smokes. You have to know all the maps pretty much, because otherwise your draft phase is going to be horrible. Teams are going to be exploiting that. You have to be synergistical with all your team. You have to have outstanding aim. You have to control your spray patterns. Let's look at League of Legends. You have to know every ability in the game. You have to know team compositions. You have to have a flexible hero pool. Once again, having synergy with your teammates. Overwatch, no different to League of Legends in that regard, but you add in the aim and the fact that there's a lot to look forward. Sorry, there's a lot going on in an Overwatch teamfight, ult economy, stuff like that. It is no secret to me that esports is a very hard industry to get into when we're talking about the big dollars. They said, a lot of people making seven-digit figures, but what they failed to present to the wider community is that a lot of these players are they're like in the top 2 teams of the region, let's just say. I know that sounds like a very bland statement, and I'll just try and back it up here. when we're thinking about these prize pools and their earnings, a lot of them do come out from tournament wins. So you have to successfully win the tournament, or if we're entering a tournament that has a lot of money, they use the Dota Championship example, where the top team got 8 million, total of nearly 30 million prize pool. So even the teams that got knocked out earlier were getting a decent cut, right? So they need to be, a lot of these things need to be put into context when we're talking about a perspective of career. If we're talking about to financially back yourself, to be stable, you really need to invest the time, because this will not be accessible, once again, to everyone who does play video games. Now, they also, I think that's around about the only thing I need to say about esports. Otherwise, they treated it with respect, with what they usually do, especially when esports first came around, as I mentioned earlier. It's sort of used as a gimmick, as a joke, and it really is disintegrating now. A lot of people are treating it with a lot more respect. Of course, in the example in the video as well, ESPN are getting on board with the FIFA Championships. They've also done, of course, E-League. So a lot of new things to look forward to for esports. The industry definitely is rising. But as of now, it is very difficult to get into these elite teams and to have a sustainable income. Otherwise, if you're like a top 10 team, and let's say rugby league, which is not even that big considering the grand scheme of things. You look at, football, for example. When I say football, I mean soccer. But if you're a top team in, let's say, England, you're going to be, if you're a decent player, a lot of mango to earn right there. But even in Australia, rugby league, if you're in a top 10 team, if you're a good player, you're going to be, in the hundred thousands, right? So just need to realize and put it into perspective that you need to be successful to be earning that top dollar. So another thing as well, the transition between the sort of outward segment of the of the questions with the head producer of IEM or whatever, I forgot, esports person that they were interviewing, proceeded to say a question that they are cheering on violence, right? The particular game that they ended up seeing and covering for most of the time when they interviewed Renegades was Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Now, claiming that the game encourages violence because you shoot someone, once again, is a straw man's argument, and the person that was being interviewed had a comeback, and it was quite good, to be honest. He said, it's no different to when, a person in rugby league or football, they tackle someone. You're not going to walk outside and tackle someone, are you? I mean, to be honest, it's not it's not that accurate of a statement, but it was hitting the point, right? It did have that general statement, or the general cloud that was coming out from all of us when we were watching that, right? So we need to put him into perspective, and we need to say, if people are being violent as a result of a violent video game, they have a problem themselves. The game does not have an inherent problem. Unless we're looking at really, really extreme games like the Manhunter game back in the day, where you would literally walk around I know, it was extremely violent. We're talking about the extreme games. Not even Mortal Kombat, because that's a mythical realm. All these things aren't possible. We're talking about realistic sort of situations. And even then, it is still a video game. And if you do consider doing these things in real life, you yourself have a mental problem. And a lot of this has been framed, and it has been a scapegoat for a lot of media when talking about, this guy, he shot a school. In this school shooting, he killed about 20 kids, right? And we found out, we went to his house, and his most recent played video game was Call of Duty 4. And I'm thinking in my head, right, and did you investigate the rest of the house? Did you see that he had heroin under his floor? You saw that, did you investigate the fact that his mother died when he was younger? All these points just seem to flow out of the whole argument and say, nope, this guy played a game with guns, therefore this transitions into real life, because that's how virtual reality can mend with the real world. Makes no sense. But as I digress, we're going to talk about more of the Lucifruit topic, and with the other streamer that was there, I forgot actually. But the only reason why this is going to be exaggerated is because of the fake Twitch chat. Gonna be honest. And this is why a lot of people are being outspoken with the community already because of that fake Twitch chat. And this has not been a surprising sort of thing for a lot of us, because we know that a lot of the time the media does set up situations to make some things look more exaggerated than what they have than what they are. My God, I can't speak. It is 5 o'clock in the morning, by the way, as I'm doing this. So they exaggerate things so they can get more attention. Right, I understand that. That's journalism, and it's what happens in today's society. But when you're trying to make a message, when you're introducing a new concept to these new audiences that maybe aren't so familiar, you want to be as accurate as possible. Now, I'm not saying that Loser Fruit doesn't cop abuse. It happens, and people who are like, your body's hot, like you're just a plain weirdo. Like you probably jerk off like 4 times a day. Actually, I'm not going to go too in depth with that, but you just have a problem yourself, sir. You need to walk outside. You need to interact with people that are, the opposite sex or the same sex. I don't judge, but there's just certain people who are very antisocial, and people who just use Twitch as their as a way to interact with people through typing. I mean, there's so many keyboard warriors, right? When was the last time you went into like a League of Legends match, and there's probably like some 200 kilo guy saying that he's going to smash your head in, when realistically you know that he can't walk 2 feet without, passing out. So there's so many keyboard warriors, and it's very difficult to get rid of. I mean, we can't blame Lucifer in this scenario. The question was asked, and she was telling the truth. It's just the fact that they set it up in such a way to people who do use Twitch quite often obviously knew that overlay was fake, and it did make things a lot more sketchy looking from someone who actually uses that site, right? So that was honestly a joke. But yeah, the statements that saying, Lucifer does cop all this stuff, it is completely understandable. It needs to be stopped, but in reality it won't. And the reality is, she makes a living off it, she gets a lot of money off it, and even if it isn't exactly the most positive attention, it still is attention, right? Like, let's say this person donates and says like, oh, you look really hot, like, oh, there we go, free $5. I don't care. Like, you're giving me money, so I shouldn't care about what you say, right? Like, if I was a professional streamer and someone donated $5 and said fuck you, I'm like, fuck you, thank you very much. It's just the sort of way that people interact on Twitch, and Twitch does have that mob mentality. People start spamming emotes in the chat and stuff like that. It's a very modern thing, and it is rather weird, to be honest, especially for people who may not know Twitch a lot. But, excuse me, the Loser Fruit story wasn't exactly too inaccurate, but as I said, the overlay and the visual changing was horrible. But let me think if I have anything else to talk about. So, we're talking, that's pretty much about it, actually. So if you guys feel like you like the video, feel free to like it down below. Give me a subscribe. Make sure you follow my Twitter as well. I will be streaming much more often as well. Myself, I'm actually a Twitch affiliate now. So we're getting there, lads. We're getting there. But more of these long talking videos, I'm sure, will be out more often. If I see a topic that I like, and we're going to talk about it. So yeah, this will be here more often. Thank you guys very much for this video. If I have not translated everything that I might have not spoken about in this video, I will feel free to tell me, and I will talk about it maybe another video, in a sequel perhaps, if an argument comes out or whatever like that. Feel free to comment below what you think about the topic as well. But once again, thank you very much for watching this video. Sorry for stuttering and looking a bit too tired, because it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, you know what, I want to get this over and done with. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. Hope you will have a fantastic night, evening, morning, whatever. Later. Stop recording. There it is.